It's called Norman Says. My dad's name's Norman. He says stuff regularly. Thanks for listening. First of all, I'd like to say how proud I am of Norman, my dad. That's not to say we've never had difficult times, but he's the inspiration behind these lines. It's not just the things he will do, but the things he will say that have helped me find my way or avoid another. You can't reason with drunks and lunatics, Rick. I remember him saying this on many occasions, and it has saved me from many abrasions, but not all of his wise words were heard, because although I try, some aren't so easy to gratify, like, don't let the bastards bring you down. Now, in theory, it's easy to obey this rule, but I know deep down some things still bother my soul. My brother, on the other hand, he has it tattooed on his forehead backwards so he can read it in his own reflection. He even has it written on his MySpace About Me section. But this section's about me. And MySpace, well, it's written on my face. And that's why my dad has always said, Rick, if you're able, try not to lay all your cards on the table. And this is a difficult thing when you're a poet, because if you love, hate, or simply know something, you tend to want to show it. But it has taught me not to jump forwards, guns blazing. Instead, I might fire a warning shot in the air to show I care, but I'll keep the gun barrel chambers covered up so people don't quite ever know when they do or don't need to duck. Well, either way, the other day I was thinking about all the things my dad does and used to say, and it got me pondering about what I'll tell my own children, because whilst they can pick and choose, ultimately the person who shapes them is you. And to do this, I have to let down my guard. So I'm sorry, Dad, but here's my cards. First thing I think I'd say to my kids is be an artist, not a fan. Take influence where you can and try to be your own man, but this does not mean always stand alone. In fact, if your thoughts are thought by others too, you'd think it would be in your interest to become a two, to see if the two thoughts become, well, interesting. And if they don't, then don't. I think I'd also tell my kids, don't run before you can walk. Instead, enjoy the freedom that crawling can bring, because before you know it, you will be running to that meeting. And if you find yourself in this position, might I offer you one suggestion? Rather than running, skip. Because it was always said by my dad, you can't be sad when you skip. I think I'd tell my children too, after a bit of skipping, stop. Take time to watch the others run fast, right past. Enjoy the feeling of being first and last, because whilst they may get to their destination first, when they get there they may see it was in fact the last places they wanted to be. And they realised it last because they were in such a hurry. But I'd say to my kids, you can be first, or second, or third. It doesn't matter as long as your inner voice is heard saying stop. Then take a look back at that journey and remember it, because one day you might need to take it again, but till then try a different route to the one you took. Rather than being the pawn and getting moved square by square forwards, be the king and swap with your rook. Maybe even learn to fly instead. That reminds me of something my dad once said. Never be afraid to question why. Why are roses red? Why is the sky blue? Why do we both cry when I say right now I do but can't love you? I'd tell my kids to look up. But I wouldn't tell them why. Because, as was always said by my dad, and you may have heard before, you should always leave them wanting more, so